The Guardians win. Shane Bieber is dominant. Not the only dominant performance we have to talk about tonight. And the Cleveland Guardians continue to gain ground in the American League Central. All on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show. I'm your host Jeff Ellis. Today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Yeah, I'm messing with the video, I apologize. It's brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. As stated before, I'm Jeff Ellis, the host for nearly 800 episodes of Locked On Guardians. That's right, 800 solo shows. It's a lot. To all the people I tried to set up interviews with and have not gotten to, I just apologize. There's well-known names we've started the process with. I get bogged down. 2 jobs, 2 kids. Stuff happens. And not like huge names. Like, I don't want to make it that seem like I'm out there like bringing in Hall of Famers, but nothing against anyone where I try to set things up. Just life, right? We're all there. We may have co-host information to announce in the next couple of weeks, so keep your ears and eyes open. Now let's get into the game today. Let's talk about an utterly dominant performance. Just a player who continues to seem to get better as the year goes on, and that is, of course, Tanner Bibee. We'll get into the Guardians game in a bit. Now, Bibee, 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, 6 hits, 1 walk. He did allow 3 earned runs. Man, just every time. Funny thing about this, I had to do the fake out, of course, this matchup. On the other side, Bibee also had a balk. Tim Cate pitching for Harrisburg. There was a time, he was a Connecticut pitcher, cold weather arm, a lefty. I think it was the changeup, maybe the best changeup in his draft class. I really thought, and I'm trying to think who the Texas A&M pitcher was. There was like 2 pitchers. I thought Steve Gingery. And Gingery, I don't even know if he ever pitched in the minors due to injury. But I thought one of those 2 would end up in Cleveland. They did not. But seeing Tim Cate there definitely made me be like, oh yeah, I remember when. But, the rest of this lineup, I had someone get mad at me. I think I've been saying instead of Micah Prize, it's Prees. So Micah Prees, stated many times, pronunciation, always something that escapes me. My co-host desperately wants to be on mic. By the way, he had his 28th double of the year. Jonathan Rodriguez, we talked about his promotion. He has struggled a bit in this promotion, though. Tonight was not a night of struggle. First triple, first double in Double A, and he had a home run. So he was just a single away from the cycle. He got the home run in the 9th, the triple in, well, they don't say when those occurred, the triple and the double. But yeah, the uncommon single away from the cycle, went 3 for 5 tonight. This lineup is definitely looking a little more picked over due to promotions. Martinez is definitely the top prospect. Lavastida has had his struggles this year with health. Jose Tena went yard for the 10th time. He is a prospect who's seen himself dip a bit, but I wanted to do, and on top of Lavastida's problems, he also had 2 pass balls in this one. I just wanted to, of course, have some fun with it, talk about Bibee's continued dominance, and I believe Bo Naylor also went yard twice tonight, just in terms of fun going-ons in the Cleveland Guardians minor leagues. 2 of your top 5 prospects having huge games. Now let's get into the game. Tonight's victory over Kansas City. And yes, I know Kansas City isn't as bad as they were, but they're still not a great team. Let's be honest. This is not a team that is really anywhere near contending, and you have to do this. You have to beat up on bad teams. And with the Minnesota-New York game being postponed, I assume due to weather, I wasn't paying too close attention to it. I just saw postponed and moved on. Looking at that, winning today allowed Cleveland to go up a game and a half. Gives you a little more of a cushion, right? A little bit more. Though we'll see what happens if New York and Minnesota do a doubleheader or try to figure out a way to get that game in. For Cleveland in this one, it's their 2nd game in a row where they had double-digit hits. Now, again, not huge amounts of runs, just one extra base hit, Oscar Gonzalez. I think that was even like in the 8th. I want to say it was super late in the game when they got that. As their continuing theme, just one walk in this one. This team just doesn't walk. It's a lot of singles. So who reached base twice? They should always go do the thing. Gimenez, of course, got hit by a pitch. He's got to lead the team in it. After his struggles, people got mad at me yesterday. Like, well, he had the weak contact. All he did today was reach base 3 times and have 2 singles. Oscar Gonzalez goes 1 for 4, has the 1 extra base hit, and then your only other players who reach base twice are Austin Hedges because of that walk and the hit, and then Myles Straw. Let's go back to, if you listen to the show, my random throwaway theory that there was some kind of Freaky Friday or vice versa, if you want to go Fred Savage in the 80s with Judge Ryan Holden, who doesn't? Theory that like somehow these 2 players only one of them can hit at a time. Like Straw started out well, and Rosario was really bad, and then Rosario hit well, and then Straw was awful. Now that Rosario is really struggling, this is back-to-back multi-hit games for Straw. He got his batting average over 200. We'll see where it goes. It would be quite a boon if he can just be what we thought he would be, which is not even a league average bat, a 10% below league average bat. With his defense, that's a 3-win player. That is a win for this team, and especially when you look at the fact that like his contract is 5 years, $5 million a year. $5 million for a 3-win player is a great deal. I'm trying to think. I think it was from Quincy Wheeler. Quincy's always great, and he was quoting someone else, and maybe Always the Jake. I think let's give credit to both places. But yeah, it's a win is typically worth about $9 million. If Straw gets back to being what he had been for his career, he's going to have so much surplus value. Ty Freeman continues to play, which is interesting to see. Though this one was the game where, the good and the bad. Gimenez moved up ahead of Owen Miller in the lineup, which it should happen. Oscar Gonzalez, you should be in this lineup. I still think you flip those 2 in my mind, but hey, the lineup was slightly improved. I'll take it. Naylor sitting against a lefty, and just Brest in general is always good after what he has gone through in the past 2 years since his massive injury and just getting back. So going through this game, Cleveland, Chris Bubik played well. The interesting thing is like the Bobby Witt didn't get a throwing error on a horrendous throw that directly kind of led to the 4th run. Instead, Owen Miller got credit for a hit. I get it. Like you're like, okay, bang bang play. Bobby Witt's been a really bad defender by defensive run saves metrics. It is kind of curious to see overall how, what do you do with him? And that's also kind of crazy to look at this team and see MJ Melendez batting leadoff and playing left field. He's a catcher. I get you got Salvi, but man, you got a young catcher with a 722 OPS who's a good defender, son of a coach. You gotta go with the youth movement all the way in. I had someone ask me, why is it that Hamilton loves the Royals so much and loves Dayton more? I always want to call him Drayton for whatever reason. Not like anyone's name is ever Drayton. I've never met a Drayton. But remember, for what we talked about yesterday, Dayton Moore hired Tom Hamilton's son to be an area scout. There's some reasons for him to really like him. And I think there's some common thought lines outside of baseball between them as well. So I think there's a lot of reasons for that crossover there. But in this one, like them or not, and like I said, they are a team moving in the right direction. Like this team or not, though, like all their moves, I'm still ambivalent on Drew Waters. We'll see. Drew Waters is their Oscar Gonzalez. Like there's a lot you can draw between those 2 athletic types who came up as center fielders with power potential who never walk and strike out. Like it is. And I saw also negative comments because I doubt Oscar Gonzalez. Again, it comes down to this. Almost no one exists who is consistently year-to-year good with his profile. There's Luis Robert, who's had 2 seasons. There is not one hitter with walk rates as low as his, strikeout rates as high as his, that has been a year-to-year consistent hitter. So, yes, I get it. He came up with the hit yesterday. He had a hit today. Maybe teams figure it out, but you're basically, look at Salvador Perez. That is your best outcome. That is your likely outcome where, hey, guess what? Some years it's going to be a 90. Some years it's going to be a 110. We'll see how it goes. For Cleveland in this game, well, actually, we're at the 10:30 mark, so let's take our first break, come back, do the box score bingo, talk about the 3 stars of today's game on today's episode of Locked On Guardians. Talked about it at the front. BetOnline is our sponsor for today, and it is your number one source for all of your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check on all of your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. And I always like to say, go check it out. They always have a few fun things going on. Should we quickly check out tomorrow's line? And with the rookie Cody Morris on the hill, there isn't any line. It's always a little bit dangerous when it's the unknown. So go check out BetOnline for many, many other things. Like I said, they don't have today's line, but they have featured same game parlays now. Chinese Taipei, Japan, South Korea. If you love baseball, they have you covered at BetOnline. Okay, so getting back into the game today. The box score bingo of it all. The 10 hits, the 1 hit, or the 1 walk, and then the 1 hit batter was 12 opportunities. 12 opportunities is 4 runs. Hey, it fits. The other side of things, 4 hits, 1 walk. It's 5 opportunities. That's 1.5 to 2. So again, fits. It's right in the right range. The 1 run coming on Salvador Perez's 20th home run of the year. The 3 stars in this one, obviously Shane Bieber. 99 had a relatively clean inning for him. Not probably good enough to get him a star, but 1 inning, 2 strikeouts. We should talk about that. His first save of the year. I think Gimenez, having reached base 3 times in this game, is your 2nd star. And then I'm going to go Myles Straw again. Another multi-hit game for him on top of the good defense. It's, like I said, I'm just so hopeful. Because if he can just... He doesn't even need to be good. Just don't be historically awful. And it's going to just change this team. Especially because, Tito has shown that he is not going to play Will Benson. Will Benson, he last played on Friday. We're approaching a week since he appeared, and he was in Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday's game, and then hasn't even appeared since. Ernie Clement had the 1 pinch run appearance. They're just not even using the bench that much. It's just the same names over and over again. Hopefully it works out. I am curious to see. They have the off day, so they can kind of set up the pitching staff for this important Twin series, where it's going to be, Cleveland is sending their big guns just to look ahead. Now with the off day Thursday, I don't want to do too much looking ahead because I'm going to need things to talk about. There's always things to talk about. We can always do a deep dive minors, and we're going to do some minors chatter today. But Cal Quantrill versus Dylan Bundy, Tristan McKenzie versus Chris Archer, and Shane Bieber versus Joe Ryan. That's a matchup. Those line up really well. And then after that, you have the Los Angeles Angels, where I can already look ahead and see the guys scheduled to pitch aren't exact. I don't know if they're going to get Ohtani in this series or not. That Angels team is, as they are every September, just circling the drain. It's kind of an embarrassment. They should have. They should have never fired Jerry Dipoto. He, had a good mix of skills that, they just, we'll see what Perry Miasman can do, but Epler, who's, I believe now the Mets GM, wasn't it Epler? I think, it's been an ugly decade, which is crazy when you consider the fact that team has Mike Trout and Ohtani. But, yeah. So Cleveland has those, and that's, we'll see what happens in this Twin series. I'm not we'll do the big preview. They need to take advantage of facing the Angels after that, because that Angels team is, again, not even really competing at this point in time. It's not like, remember earlier in the year when I wanted to trade for Taylor Blake Ward and the Angels were like waxing the Guardians? Well, since then, they're now like strongly third in their division. And in terms of, Taylor Ward. Taylor Blake Ward is my friend, not the baseball player. Taylor Ward still has a 123 runs created plus. So, yeah, he'd still be a nice addition to the Guardians outfield, especially because he is a right-handed bat. I don't know if there's a world where he gets traded, but he would be exactly what that team needs. Just to continue with the game today, we did our 3 stars. We did the box score bingo of it all. My co-host is making me jump over here because he just wants me to go to bed. But not going to. I got a podcast, so he's going to have to calm down. Tomorrow's matchup for Cleveland, since we are talking matchups. And where did I lose it? This is the problem. I click on the wrong thing, and I lose it. Daniel Lynch, Cody Morris. We already talked about that. Man, Lynch is another one of those many arms, and it is interesting how badly. I mean, you can look at this week. Chris Bubich pitched well today, but Brady Singer, looking at Daniel Lynch, these are guys who have yet to be able to stick. And they had a bunch of high picks after all those players left in free agency without much to show for it. I still, like I said, they're a fun, interesting team with some really interesting players now, but I still can't help but feel this has been one of the more botched rebuilds. I mean, what, a decade almost since that World Series, and they've been in a rebuild basically the whole time. It's right up there with Detroit, where we keep hearing that it's their time now, and I bought into the Detroit ones. That's all the more on me, but yeah, it's kind of amazing to think. And there's kind of a genius to the rebuild. Like in most situations, yes, LA did a mini rebuild, and Epler still got fired because they were never able to do a full rebuild. But when you're that GM, it's like, no, we're rebuilding. We're going to be bad for a few years, build up. It buys you so much more time. You don't get fired in baseball in your first 5 years if you immediately go into a rebuild. If I was a GM, unless my team was in the playoffs, I'd be rebuild, stripping it down. We're going to start over. It's a little bit amazing in some ways that Pittsburgh has still held on to a few players here and there that they didn't even, Brian Reynolds, of course, stands out, is a piece that's still there. But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting to look. And I think you can say the same thing in the NBA and, the NFL anymore. If you are a new general manager, if you want to have, because there's always a degree of luck, and there's a degree of having the central pieces you need, but just going full on rebuild, that might be the easiest way to guarantee yourself 5 years in that position, as long as you can acquire the right assets. You have to show, and in baseball, in some respects, it's easier because you just need the prospects to play well against lesser competition in the minors. I mean, prospects, it's not until they hit the big leagues that some of those big name guys fall apart. There are the ones, the high picks, who don't, it just doesn't work for them. But it is interesting to kind of track and see how much more we will see teams immediately go to full rebuilds, unless the owner doesn't allow it, because it buys you more time. We're going to take another break here, come back, and talk a little bit about the minors on today's Locked On Guardians. So, should we start with the bad? Let's start with some pitching. Which pitchers who are our 10 worst pitchers in the minor leagues by FIP this year? For those who don't know, that is fielding independent ERA. It is one of the best indicators for future success for pitchers. Who are the ones that have struggled the most? Robert Broom. If you know me, I thought he was their greatest hope to finally get value in the 10th round. I didn't think there was a huge, I pat myself on the back when I get it right. I didn't think there was a huge gap between Broom and Sandlin. In some regards, I liked Broom more at points in the minors. Not a good thing there. 9, Doug Nikhazy. I didn't love the pick at the time. I'm certainly not loving it as this, look what Gavin Williams did, the first round pick. Look what Doug Nikhazy has done as a second rounder. Look what Tanner Bibee did as a 5th rounder. Almost every other pick in that draft class, and I say almost because the number 2 and number 3 picks in that class have scuffled pretty massively compared to the entire rest of that heavy pitching class. But Nikhazy, as a second round pick that they gave, I believe, 7 figures to, kind of a disappointment so far. Jamie Arias, organizational soldier. Tanner Burns, it's a disappointing year. He's not cracking my top 30. He's just not. And the question when he was drafted was, this was a guy who could not maintain velocity throughout a season in college. He looked really good in the first few months and hasn't maintained it. It might be time to fast track to the bullpen. I know there's been health issues, but I think he could still be a major league player as a reliever. But the problems we saw with maintaining velocity have just remained. Alonzo Richardson, I see he was an undrafted free agent, blanking on him a little bit. 19-year-old kid. Tommy Mace, the third pick, their Comp B pick from last year. Definitely a seven-figure guy, was essentially a senior, 5.26 FIP, and he's only played in high A as one of the oldest pitchers in his class. That is extremely discouraging. Yes, they were aggressive in placement, but you think about who else they were aggressive with, who has passed him. He was the oldest pitcher in that draft class, and it certainly makes you wonder about the Florida stuff, right? Because, Leftwich has been great. But, yeah, to see him at 23, just, not missing enough bats. And that was one of the big... he was a potential second-round pick out of high school. The Reds were the team, I think, that drafted him. We thought they were going to go way over slot, and he decided to go to college. Didn't develop enough, and like I said, for where he was taken at his age with his pedigree, being below average in A-ball it's not a death knell, but it's you're kind of in that like Quentin Holmes group of guys where they're starting, where you were looking at them like now I gotta see if you can belong. Kirk McCarty, the guy who has spent a lot of time with Cleveland. By the way, I mentioned it in the extra amount of the podcast. Anthony Castro continuing that Baltimore Orioles train that Kirk McCarty was a part of. The Baltimore Orioles claimed Anthony Castro. He is there. I don't have an issue with that. Listen, McCarty's been up and down. He's done his role, filling in from time to time. But yeah, if he isn't taken off the 40-man roster at the end of the year, I will be shocked. Jordan Jones, another guy who has just been, back and forth as a filler. Adam Scott was a guy I thought might get taken in last year's Rule 5. He was a priority senior sign, a guy they gave a decent chunk of money for as a senior. Moved really well through the system until that 2020 COVID year, and just wasn't fully healthy last year. And then, this year it's only 67 innings, so again, not fully healthy, but not super effective. Control just kind of got away from him. And then number one, former Guardian at this point in time, Tobias Myers. If we want one more deep, you have Bronny Munoz, who I'm not as familiar with, and then Aaron Davenport, interestingly, is 12th. So there's kind of a jump from the 4.5 to a 4.38 in my mind. So that's where that is. Now, in terms of most effective pitchers, according to FIP, predictive stats, Gavin Williams won. We know Gavin Williams. I don't think I have to go into it. Raymond Burgos. Now, he is 23 in A-ball. He might be like, it feels like he's been around forever. He just hasn't been healthy. 61 innings this year. Like I said, he was my sleeper back when Lavastida and Cody Morris was my sleeper in the low minors. And it's just been health for him. But he's performing. Tim Herron, the lefty reliever, has not been as effective once he moved up to AAA, but still an interesting lefty reliever in the system. He is 8th. Tanner Bibee, 7. Nick Enright, he moved up to AAA and had no problems at all. I don't know if a team will take him because it's not dominant stuff, but he just continues to perform. And if I'm a bad team, I consider it. Like, you typically get the best bang for your buck with relief types. 5, Davis Sharp, kind of, I don't want to say necessarily a forgotten guy, but with all the other big names and all the big performances in last year's draft class, Davis Sharp was a two-way guy who has performed very well in low and high A this year. Cade Smith, who definitely a forgotten guy. The 2020 draft, I believe he was an undrafted free agent out of Hawaii, has 53 innings this year, but the 4th best FIP. Joey Cantillo, 3rd best FIP, 2.51, just 60 innings. The health of it all. That's the concern. It's like, when was the last time he actually pitched? I'd have to open and look at a game log. I feel like Joey Cantillo has not pitched in a very long time, and that means 2 years in a row that he has missed a significant amount of time. And I don't know if he's a slam dunk that you add to your 40-man, but then I tell you what, if I'm an opposing team, I snatch him in a second to put him in the bullpen. So if you don't want to lose him, you have to add him because he's been so good. No one's hitting the ball hard. He is missing bats. The walk numbers are okay. They're not, low fours is fine. It's not bad. It's not great. If I'm a bad team, I absolutely jump on a lefty who has done what he has done. Jack Leftwich, the other Florida arm, started in low A to high A. He's been continually great. And then Andrew Miziasic, the right-handed reliever who double A to triple A still has the lowest FIP, barely holding on, 245 to 249. So it is interesting that he is still there. We have three of those guys who, with Miziasic, Enright, and Heron, who've gotten the move up. And it's kind of funny how myself included, wanted them to trade for a reliever at the deadline. And then, 99 was able to come back. Sandlin was able to come back. And Yale has continued to be a stabilizing force. It's like outside of Eli Morgan and Brian Shaw, that pen, where would you even add another guy? Just to go further down, kind of fun names. Will Dion, who we talked about with his promotion, is at 11. Logan Allen, who it's been rough in AAA for him. That's why he's down here at 12 and not higher on this list. And if we just want to complete the Florida triumvirate of arms from a year ago, Franco Allman is 17th. He has pitched only in low A this year, and even though he's 22 years of age. Flipping it around. In terms of runs created plus, who are our least productive hitters? Is that a little mean to go this way? Quentin Holmes, no longer with the team, was let go. It says only 59 plate appearances. That feels like it might be. I thought he had more than that this year. But yeah, there he is. If you go Willie Peralta, who's at over 168, he's at 11. And then not necessarily any huge names. Bobby Bradley at 17. But continuing to go from the list. Former second-round pick Quentin Holmes. Daniel Johnson, who they traded away at 9. Eric Rodriguez, who's kind of a backup utility infielder. Yan Gomez at 7. Now here's one that hurts. Okay, we talked about Tanner Bibee and his issue. Not Tanner Bibee. Tanner Burns. Too many Tanner B's in this system. When I think Tanner B, I think Bibee, not Burns. Carson Tucker, 129 plate appearances in A-ball. 33 runs created plus. He's striking out 39.5% of the time. Listen, I didn't love the pick when it happened because I just was not sold on that profile. It has not looked very good since. And yeah, it's pretty ugly. Angel Mendoza, 5. Skelling Rodriguez, 4. Victor Nova, with a 28, was 3rd. He is now playing for, I just passed that stadium. Not Erie, the dying town in Indiana. Gary, Indiana? Gary has an independent league baseball team. And Nova was an interesting lottery ticket in the Trevor Bauer deal. Just did not come together. Fran Aldi, and then low guy Zach Facasia, who's been in A and AAA, back up at a 17 runs created plus. Now, it's a little mean, but it is interesting to see that. And let's talk about our top 10 minor league performers this year. It is interesting seeing the guys just outside the top 10. Like Nolan Jones, 15th best runs created plus in the minors, actually tied with Richie Palacios at 14 and 15. One below them, Jonathan Rodriguez. Below that, George Valera. Ahead of them, Nelson Arguerin, and then Bo Naylor and Angel Martinez. But starting at 10, you have Jason Churio, brother. His brother Jackson is probably going to make every top 10 list at the end of the year. Good bloodlines, and if you know my theory about younger brothers, then this is a player you definitely want to pay attention to. Give you a fun fact about him: 23% walk rate, 12.6% strikeout rate. Yeah, it's really fun. Matt Collado is in the complex. I don't know a ton on him, if I'm being honest. He is 19 years of age. Next up, Cesar Idrongo, who has played in A and High A, 114 plate appearances, 142 runs created plus. He's been really effective down there. Christopher Espinal is in the Dominican Summer League. Sixth best performance in the minors this year, Alex Call. You have Jose Cedrino, we talked about. I believe that is the catcher of note. Jose Gomez at 4, both those DSL guys. Juan Benjamin, who's been in the complex and A-ball, and who has tied Will Benson. And then highest performance, Wilfredo Antones, who has a 172. Walking more and he strikes out and has a really high everything. I mean, if it's a 172. Now, obviously, it's a bit different if we pull out some of those smaller school guys, or really low-level players. You would see some of those guys like Nolan Jones, like Angel Martinez, like Richie Palacios make the top 10. It is interesting from the degree of, like, those guys in the upper levels, Benson and Call and Palacios and Jones. They may not have all gotten long looks, but they all got looks. What else do you want me to look at? Should I dive into a particular number? Do we enjoy these top 10, bottom 10? Should we do that? Like top 10 for home runs, bottom 10 for home runs? I don't think this is very effective just because there's going to be a lot of guys at like 0 and 1, such as you have those late hitters. Might be fun to do with something like walk percentage, strikeout percentage for both hitters and pitchers. This might be something I look to continue doing. At least I find it's interesting, so please let me know. Remember to rate and review, download daily. In terms of the YouTube, we are at, subscriber-wise, 597.
People keep saying the Guardians play in a weak division, but they can't hang with the big boys. Well, they take 2 out of 3 from the Blue Jays. They just split a series with the Astros.